Hello and welcome back to the Unstuck Movement, True Testimonies of Breakthrough. I am your host, as always, Rob Z. And today we have an incredible guest with us. Trevor Schade is on the platform. We're talking, tactical empathy, having that wealth life that you want to live, building power and passive power into your life, being lean and lucrative, and unstuck scaling, among so many other things. But Trevor, one thing that I find really interesting is something you talk about, being ambitiously lazy. And this is a whole mindset that you stand behind. So how do you teach or instill that ambitiously lazy mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the Unstuck movement, Rob. I appreciate it. Ambitiously lazy was invented, I'd say, by my sister. She's a year older than me. When we were 8 and 9 years old, and she called me out and she said, "Trevor, you will outwork anyone so that you don't have to work. You're ambitiously lazy." And I thought, well, and at that time I was like, I don't understand, it's complex and whatever. And as I grew and I got I got certifications in Lean and in Six Sigma and these efficiency business process methodologies, I started learning that there's things like, smarter, not harder. And there's actually these terms around it. And that's really all it was. I naturally hung out and waited for the low hanging fruit and I would hit a home run. And I was comfortable waiting for the easy one, for the lob. And that turned into a lifestyle, a business approach. And I'll redline, I'll grind, I'll get dirty, and I'll power into stuff when I need to. But at the same time, I've always got that monitor on for, I will in a very intense way look for the lazy way, meaning the 80-20 rule, that Pareto principle. That is just something I live and breathe in everything I do. And so I just took the phrase from my my 9-year-old sister, and it has become my path and my journey and my method.
Before we move on from that, can you give me a practical example in your life, in your business, that kind of exemplifies ambitious laziness?
Yeah. So if I look at a big chunk of my career was being a real estate agent for people, and I remember if I had a client that was just taking my time. And so this could apply to any industry or any a corporate arena. Or if you have somebody that is just taking all your time. Mine was a client, and they were complaining, and they always had questions, and they wouldn't operate by text, and they wouldn't operate by email. And Tim Ferriss in 4-Hour Work Week, he talks about, don't do a verbal conversation when an email suffices. Don't do an email when a text will suffice. Yeah. And to have that kind of hierarchy. And so somebody that was just eating up my time, my quote unquote potential hourly rate, but they weren't being billed for that. It was like, well, no. And so I would start looking for, listing houses with clients. As much as many agents are like, list to last, I get it. I hear that. You can use listings to drum up more clients. So I don't discount it completely, but I'm like, if I look at the number of hours that I put into doing emotional damage control and the type of like torment that I get. And so then even when I'm off of the call, how down and slow and low I am for the next hour or two, when I really grind the numbers and add that up like a true P&L, it's a pretty big cost. And so I would look at, well, what about a first-time home buyer? Or what about a second-time home buyer? Or, what about an internet lead that doesn't know me from anyone and will trust me pretty immediately? I mean, I started looking for those opportunities that were actually more suitable for a streamlined process and automation and outsourcing. So then even if it took more time holistically, it didn't take my time. And it didn't take my energy and my brain away from the other creative parts of my life and the other businesses that I run that I want to pour into.
I love that, man. Yeah, because whether people mean to or not, they can really suck up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And, it's an interesting way of looking at that, because you want to be efficient, you want to be effective, you want to get things done, you want to be successful, you want to help people though too. You want to make sure they get what they need. And you're actually probably doing them a favor a lot of the times in that situation. You're saving them the conversational time too.
Yeah, that's right. And I've had many conversations with clients and I've just said, hey, I don't know if my style is the right fit for what you need. And that's okay. I'm sorry. I wish it was. I mean, I take the apology and I own it. And, really, I want to say, I can't stand you. But really, I'm like, my style does not work for what you need. And I get that and I hear that. So let's get you a pairing and let me do a little work here to get
Mm.
partnered up with somebody that's going to service you in a way that you're going to be really excited about. And it's just a fit, not fit situation, is all.
Yeah, man. I love that. That's really good. Okay. So before we go any further, I just want to welcome everybody here. The Unstuck movement created because I've been stuck, Trevor. I'm sure you've been stuck at certain points in
Definitely.
your life and professionally, right? We need breakthrough in our lives. And so I love this show to be examples of real breakthrough. So you know that it's possible for you wherever you're stuck right now. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Over 500 heart-centered entrepreneurs all over the world helping each other grow. And also the Pro Podcaster Academy. So if you're somebody who wants to have a podcast, all the nuts and bolts are slowing you down, but you want to make that lasting impact on people's lives. You want to be the go-to authority in your space and also create incredible personal and professional connections. You should launch your platform. And if you already have one, how do you streamline it? How do you monetize it? I'd love to help you with that at robzwentz.com. Today with us is Trevor Schade, a real estate investor, Lean Six Sigma black belt, and former team leader who built a $4 million portfolio after starting in MLM, a stroke survivor and sales psychology expert. Trevor now teaches others how to create passive income and reclaim their time, which we've already gotten into just a little bit here. But I'd like to just switch gears for a second and talk about, because this is all about getting unstuck. And for you personally, your story, I imagine that stroke had a big impact on
Yeah.
your life and probably was a sticking point for you for a while. If you don't mind, can we go there?
Yeah.
What led up to the event and how did things change afterwards?
Yep. Yep. So there's a lot of layers here, but to keep the story as concise as possible, I was in you call it an unhealthy or codependent marriage. Like it was, high school sweetheart story, 15, 16, got married, had the kids, all that kind of stuff. Well, somewhere in there, I had multi-level marketing, and I had really lost who I was. I didn't necessarily have my own identity. Neither did my ex-wife. Everybody, we were really blind following, as a lot of us do in our 20s when we're trying to figure stuff out, right? You just have to like sell out, commit, run the race for a hot minute, and then realize, oh, and you have that Jerry Maguire moment. And mine was at about age 27. And I was like, I don't like who I am in this world.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I've now had 27 years of practicing one way of doing it. So now it was like the beginning of experimentation. And so by the time I was about 32, 33 years old, that's when everything really imploded. I had a pretty total life implosion. I had kids at that time, so they were about 3 and 5 years old. A divorce was now filed. I had my consulting gigs and jobs of Lean and Six Sigma and process improvement and design and all that. Well, all of that I got laid off and shut down. And I had gotten a real estate license, and I had helped one client with a house because I planned on just doing flips and rentals myself. And now I find myself 100% on commission in the middle of the divorce, which turned into a custody battle, which I also had a grandparent in hospice and pass away. And it was the same time. It was the first time that I had ever experienced death, especially being in the room of one. And I had a fiveplex that got bed bugs. And so I had to let everybody out of their lease in a winter and carry the heating bills of 5 units while unemployed, and do the renovations and do the heat and do the chemical treatment and try to get out from under this implosion of, honestly, I was looking at the different forms of bankruptcy, because what do you do? And then I remember sitting and writing down on a piece of paper, shelter, food, custody, because I knew I was about to lose custody of my kids because I didn't have shelter myself. I didn't have food. Like, you don't get to have responsibility over children when you're missing those 2 items. And so those had come to pass. I had a couple of other smaller instances and things show up, and then what ultimately happens? I had a chiropractic adjustment, and because of the amount of stress, strain, and pressure that was on my entire system. A couple other contributing factors. Honestly, the chiropractor, he's like a physical therapist. I still would swear by him, and he's a great guy. He does a really great job. And I even still support chiropractics for all the listeners out there that are wondering if I'm about to hate on chiropractors. I'm not. He did an adjustment in my neck, and my artery wouldn't stretch a normal distance, and the inner wall popped and created a little flap that shut the blood off to the left side of my brain. And right there on his table, the whole right side of my body shuts down and my face starts doing the droop. And I make a phone call to my dad and tell him I'm headed to the hospital. I think I have a pinched nerve. And he couldn't understand a word I was saying. It sounded real to me, not to him. And so anyway, they showed me on the MRI where I had a blood clot hit the base of my brain and the tear in the artery and all that. And 2 days later, it got retore, and I had a second one that was worse. And and that was back in 2014. And so all to success story that I'm one of the fortunate ones, and I had a pretty big moment in the hospital, but I ended up having no remnants other than extreme paranoia. Anytime I sit on one leg too long, or my fingers go tingly for any reason, like I'm all freaked out, of course. But other than that, no ongoing factors. And when I was in that hospital, I remember it's the Nebraska Med Center, world renowned. People come to the Nebraska Med Center specifically because of the degree of care and treatment they do. And I remember I was walking around probably about 3 days from being released. And the floor is shaped like an H, if you're to aerial it. And I'm walking down one of the legs, and I get to the kind of the crossbar where the elevators and reception are, and I look across to the other side, and there's a little lady there, and she moves her walker 1 foot, or I'm sorry, 1 inch, not a foot, 1 inch, and then she moves her feet 1 inch, 1 inch, and then the walker, and then 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1. And as I had been walking up that H, I'd been looking, in the rooms and the doors, and there was people laying there in beds, and we're on the neurological floor of the Nebraska Med Center. And it was right there that my eyes kind of went dark, my knees buckled, my hand hit the ground, and I realized I was the only person on this floor that could both walk and talk.
Wow.
Everybody else could either do one, the other, or neither. And so that was the breakthrough of the shell that cracked what I had created back when I was, about 8 years old. I'd learned I didn't like to feel controlled, and I gave up my empath nature, and I learned to be a narcissist, and I learned to really crack down on this belief of control. And I thought control was safety, and my whole persona became that. And right here, I shattered, and I could feel other humans again, and I could empathize again, and I could understand somebody that had been laid off, and that ringing in their head of "you're not wanted," and the same ringing when you get a divorce and "you're not wanted." And even if it's not the message, and even if it's not what makes sense, that was all I could hear, and I understood immediately that that's what other people were hearing and feeling. And then to face financial bankruptcy in business, and then now to have these hospital bills and to be looking at medical bankruptcy, I understood connecting and feeling with people again. And from there, I really did just have that list: shelter, food, custody, and I added to it. And one at a time, I fixed one piece, and then I fixed one piece. And that was how I got unstuck after probably took 2 or 3 years of just pick an item, fix one, pick an item, fix one, pick an item, fix one. And after about 2, 3, maybe 5 years, I could look back and go, I've restabilized everything equal or better than it was before that shattering. And I came out of it with all of this new understanding, perspective, and connection to people.
Wow, man. That's such a good story. I love that. I love, just also the vulnerability of saying, for many years there, you were shut off to people.
Yeah.
Probably had something to do with the marriage not working too, right? Like
that'll do it.
Mixed in there.
I think a lot of people shut down in that when they're in something where there's not open communication, when everybody's practicing non-vulnerability, when they are just not safe to go in that space, either in their own mind or truly because of the other person, that you are stuck. Yeah. And I had to have a pretty big shattering, a pretty big hammer to unstick me from that.
Yes. Wake up calls. They come in all different severities and all different shapes and forms. Yeah. Myself too. I'm divorced once, remarried, and really blessed. And I'll tell you, I could relate to that in my first marriage for sure, that I was definitely stuck and I didn't know that I was.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of self-centeredness
Yep.
revolving around me,
Yep.
causing a lot of problems. It takes two to tango, but I definitely
Definitely.
had my stake in the whole thing. And I love that you named something really simple there. You said shelter, food, custody, right?
Yeah.
So I always think about goals and targets we're trying to reach, right? As
Mhm.
business owners, as coaches, it's always goals. What are we going after?
Yeah.
And I've come to a place just recently, over the past, I'd say, several months, of like making my goal extremely simple. The goal
Mhm.
is provider and protector for my home. That's the
Yeah.
goal, and everything falls in underneath that. And
Yeah.
so when I heard you say that custody, or shelter, food, custody, it's like, wow, that's a really profound, simple goal.
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
I guess I have a question behind that. And the question would be,
Yep.
I think the simplest things are the best things, but you encompassed so much inside of that goal. So how did you know what to start going after
Mhm.
to build the building blocks back together? And do you
Yeah.
still follow those
Mhm.
goals? Is that still
Yep.
the mindset?
Yeah, yeah. I think what I've been able to reflect on now is, I think this applies to anyone's goal that they have achieved and likely have forgotten used to be a goal, because we tend to achieve our goals, set new ones, and then forget about ourselves 10 years ago yearning for the thing that we've already achieved.
Hmm.
And so what I like about that, that memory of how clear it was. I can remember the color of the ink on the paper of shelter, food, and custody. I can easily keep myself grounded and humbled, because I heard another phrase. I can't remember who said it, but when you're on top, you're not as good as you think you are. When you're on bottom, you're not as bad as you think you are,
Hmm.
because I'm extremely hard on myself. And if I'm on top, I can get cocky and I can be like, "Oh, nothing can touch me. I'm untouchable." Well, that's when the world touches you. And
Yeah.
and then if you're like, "Oh, I'm no good. I'm terrible." You're really hard on yourself. You're not as bad as you think you are. And when you're the big deal, you're not as good as you think you are. And so having that is a very comfortable and easy way that I am able to stay grounded and go, yeah, but you did achieve shelter, didn't you? And you did achieve food, and you did
Hmm.
achieve custody. And then everything in between, I can do the same memory with those. So any other goal, if somebody never fell that far, every one of the folks listening can definitely look at their own life and their own achievements and go, but I'm not chasing that anymore, am I? I did achieve that. I did achieve, and it's a humbling experience. I think that I can use those still to this day in a little bit different way.
Yeah, I love the clarity, simplicity. I hope everybody can find that sort of clarity, because
Mhm.
that it sounds so impossibly broad,
Yeah.
right? But I understand that's the most clear you can possibly give. You can boil it down to one, two, three words.
Yeah.
I mean, holy smokes! Now you've really got something to
Yeah.
go after.
Yeah. And I hear I'll give this too. This is one that I hear people talk about, everything happens for a reason. And I hear that, and there's definitely a part of me that's on the energy level, and I understand and I get it, but I'll challenge it a little bit, and I'll say everything happens if you give it reason.
Hmm.
Because right in that moment, if I get real vulnerable here, in that moment of that life implosion, I was very suicidal. It was a very dangerous space to be in. And I understood, when your kids are so young and you're the father, they don't want dad, they want mom. That was how I thought. I had no friends, I had no career, I had no, what did I care about? I didn't even have an identity. I had already
Mm.
flushed all of that for 10, 15 years. And so being in that space in that moment, it's a very dangerous space to be. And so I got to relate with anybody that's feeling that absolute despair also. And I got to think about, where do you draw that line, and where do you decide, and what do you do? And everything happens for a reason? Not really. I could, right in that moment, choose to no longer exist, or I could choose to give it meaning, so that everything did happen for a meaning. And that was the choice. No one could take credit for, oh yeah, and look what you became through that. That's all fine and good, but I had a choice to make, and then a whole lot of work to do. So I
Mhm.
do believe that everything happens for a reason, maybe, if you give it reason.
That's really good. I'm always looking for themes when we do these episodes. That is a great theme. Everything happens when you give it reason.
Yeah.
That's so much better than everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's like, man, everything happens when you give it, because it gives you the power of
Yeah.
like, listen, give this thing a reason and you're going to get something amazing out of it. And that's the
Yeah.
truth.
That's the truth.
My mentor always says, and the last episode I did, we talked about this a lot. There's a blessing in everything, and if you look for it, and that's what I hear you saying, and everything happens when you give it a reason. You got to look for the blessings, and they're there in the worst of things and the best of things. And that's really good, man. I love that. So real fast, we got to pause to shout out the sponsor of the show. When we come back, though, I want to talk about the title of the episode, you shutting down a multi-million-dollar real estate team, and also the fact that you hired 26 agents over 5 years and never lost anybody, which is unheard of, which had to do with that empathy that came from that realization in the stroke. But I want to cover that, dive into that when we come back in 1 minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So, Trevor, loving this conversation, man. Really, really interesting. Just the breakthrough that you found through that stroke and what came from that. And I'm really curious, you talk about shutting down your multi-million-dollar real estate team. You had a team, you hired 26 agents over 5 years. You never lost anybody. How is that possible, number one? And what is the story of getting rid of all that?
Yeah. So all of this came to be post-stroke. So that was, when I went 100% self-employed, is during that whole season. And part of that was being a real estate agent and leaning into clients. And what I had learned was, as I was being an agent just solo for the first 3 years. It took 3 years for me to admit this, but 3 years in, I realized I'm not putting in the same time as these agents that are my peers. I'm putting in about 25% of the time as most are. And it was because my background was in programming since I was in since I was in 5th grade. And then in 8th grade, I learned about 3 more coding languages and on and on and on. And I became this techie. And then I got taught these systems of smarter, not harder, automating with machines and using Zapier and API Nation to tie technologies together. And then I started using Upwork and Fiverr to hire staff I could afford for hourly rates that fit the business and the level I was at. So I could start creating machine optimized tools and systems. But also sometimes I needed somebody just to ask me if I wanted something done on a regular schedule. So now I could have these assistants and these people that would ask me this rather than machines just automatically sending things. And I had all of that in place because I was ambitiously lazy. I got angry at things on a Friday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I launched a whole new company because I just never wanted to have to deal with that annoyance again. And I didn't know that this wasn't normal. I thought people just, when you get frustrated enough, you just go figure it out and build a thing. And I can understand, and now I can look at things from a very linear, technological, programmery, stereotype brain. And at the same time, I can understand, well, yeah, but in Lean and Six Sigma training and teaching and these statistical analytics and these reportings and all of this, if I were to get people in a posture of inspiration, I can have half of the metrics. And I don't have to overlook and overwatch them. I don't have to have quite as much of a QA department. I don't have to be hard on people. I don't have to motivate them. I can instead have somebody become, in high school or college, I think we've all had that moment where we were working on a project and we had already completed what was required, but we were enjoying it. And it was fun, and it's something we're leaning into, and we got neurotic about it, and we got inspired really. And all of a sudden it was 2 a.m. and we were still cranking away and overperforming because we were all about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, my sister runs a Gallup strengths coaching business, and I learned those strengths and gifts and talents of what are the top 5 things of 34 different strengths. What are the top 5 things that people are so innately built into, and they're in them, and it's who they are, that they can't help but to do it. They do that work, or they do those things in those categories, and they actually feel more energized than a full night's sleep. And they're so good at them that they're terrible at teaching them because they don't know how they do them. And I thought, if I could start building teams, departments, cultures with that in mind, I'll do my automation, I'll do my outsourcing, and then I'll also build a culture that has a sense of you belong here, you fit here, you're heard and you're seen. And that all sounds good, and those are buzzy words, but I mean, I had everyone take those Gallup strengths tests, and we had them up on the wall, all of them. And I would walk in almost every day, and I'd have somebody standing in the middle of the room, staring at the board, understanding themselves better, understanding who they work with better. Why is that person so competitive? Why is that person always bringing up positive responses to everything? Why is that one so adaptable? Why is that one so aggressive? And they also now were building into them. They saw their own face and name up there, and they said, everybody's understanding me too. And it really played out that way. And everybody that joined the team, the organization, so I started offering these tools and these systems to real estate agents that are more stereotype salespeople rather than stereotype programmers. And they now had all this automation. They could unload and offload all the crap, and they could just go work on relationships and negotiating and stay in their lane. And along the way, now their time was free. They also then got a whole host of people that understood why they ticked the way they ticked. And as they developed friendships and bonds, there was no reason to look anywhere else or go anywhere else. And I'll tell you, that's one of the most accidental things that I did right too, was that the creating of that friendship and bond. When we had our first 5 agents on the team, it was after the first year, I had a sales incentive program put in place. And what it was is a percent. I didn't like when someone had to perform and you have to hit this many sales by October 1st or something like that. And if you do, you get this. If you don't, you get this. I watched a really great agent, 29 of the 30 in a previous, and they got left out. Well, of course, that person within the next 3-4 months switched companies. I mean, they were told your 29 doesn't mean anything to us. You have to get 30 to mean anything to us. So I did a percentage, and I said, whatever percent of your goal that we set together on the front end of the year, whatever percent you hit of that, I will pay that percentage of your airfare and your all-inclusive resort trip to Mexico. Well, we get through this first year, and I look back at my OG 5 agents, and I said, well, guys, I think if I would have had the systems in place to help you perform, I think you all would have hit your sales goals. And so I'm going to own this. This is on me. I'm going to pay 100% of all of your trips, your airfare and your all-inclusive trip. You can pay for your spouse, but I'll pay for you. And we'll go do this together and celebrate that we did our first launch, first year startup real estate organization together. And when I made that decision, that was in February, I think, of 2017. And we had no money. We had all 9 bank accounts were total. I think it was about $64. We had something like $11,000 a month in expenses. So that was coming up in March. And we had $108,000 in credit card debt that I had just maxed out to make this thing happen. And by no means would I recommend somebody to do this way from a business and a financials perspective. There is another way, but I didn't know it at the time. And I said yes, and I did it. And those 5 were glued to each other. They became real friends, real bonds. They experienced something in the world. I didn't require them to stick around or do anything on the trip. They came to one dinner, and anything else was like, hey, let's go hit a catamaran. And every year I did that trip, and I watched everybody that had joined the organization that came on that trip. They then became part of the glue. And that culture of belonging, being seen, being heard, their life being made easier by the automation and the tools. And then they actually had a running mate, a friend side by side. That altogether created the some intentional and some accidental right thing recipe of what really grew that organization and kept it together.
I want to get back to you took all of those strength finder tests. I'm fascinated by this and put them on the wall. So everybody, did anybody have pushback from that?
No, no one really did. I mean, I think I explained why. My nature
It's
is
such a great idea, man. It's such a great
yeah,
idea. You can see everybody. Now I see you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like it eliminates a lot of confusion, eliminates a lot of like, why is this person this way?
yeah,
Like, well, there it is. Here's why I am the way that I
yep.
am.
Yeah. We had someone that had a #1 Gallup strength of competition, and he was very abrasive. If you didn't know that, and it's because he likes the game. He likes to compete, and it's not good enough to always win. That's not competing. He needs a worthy adversary that almost beats him or does beat him once, but then he gets to win 9 times. And when we would get together, for some kind of holiday party or something like that and play these games, they'd get very heated. And now we could know why, and we could even give him a bit of a hard time. But he knew that we understood him and we accepted him for who he was, and nobody needed anybody to change.
Oh yeah, man, that's so good. That's such a simple concept, and it's also fascinating and fun, right? It's fun to like learn about yourself, learn about other people. I really love that idea. Was your information also up there?
Oh yeah, oh
Okay,
yeah,
just
yeah.
making sure. That would be the
No,
glue. That would
yeah.
make it stick.
Yeah, and part of that was I know that I'm quirky, and I know that I'm intense, and I know that I am hard to swallow, and it's just like I needed them to know I'm just as human as everybody else. And our admin staff that were in the Philippines and India, and we had some folks in Dallas across the country. Everybody was up there, and everybody could understand, and they could even see why our admin staff, they had certain gaps in their set of strengths as a whole and as a team, because we didn't need them to be extremely influential. And then our sales staff and our sales team, well, we didn't necessarily, we needed one person to be able to advocate for them and go influence in a professional setting or document a process, but not really. We didn't need them to be as administrative. And so I used my sister's tools, and we analyzed our different teams to figure out what do we actually need and want in these teams and why, to make sure that they were the right people. And we did that on the hiring end. Anytime we brought somebody on, we would have them take that test to make sure that it was the right fit and feel. And I also told the team, the real estate team, the sales team, the agents, I said, hey guys, I know that I have a bias. Any breathing human can create a sale, can create profit. But I had seen that done wrong so many times that I said, here's the deal. I will only ever bring anyone into this organization if I can get at least 2 of you to say, I would enjoy drinks on a beach with that person. And if I couldn't get at least 2 people, because I understand once you get big enough, you can't have the whole cultures buy in. You can have micro cultures within it. If I could get 2 people to say, I would enjoy hanging out with that person, I would enjoy drinks on it, and I'm like, that works. If I can't get that, and there was at least 15 people that I would have brought on, and my team, I couldn't get 2 people to say yes to. And I think at least half of them I got to see within a month or 2 afterward. I got to observe that the team was right, and I protected us and me through that design.
Yeah, I see it so much with the companies that I work with is just this desperation to hire.
Yeah.
Right. And just hiring people because we need to hire people. We don't have enough people. And so they bring people in, and you get a lot of toxic people that way.
Yeah.
And it's a great idea. Bring the team in. How did the team meet this person?
Yeah.
How did they get to interact with them? What did that?
Yeah. We didn't tell the person, but I said, hey, I want you to meet the team, and I want you to make sure that you feel like you vibe with the team. And let's just go get some drinks and get some appetizers. And we would just meet up somewhere in the world. And I would let the team know, hey, this is happening. I need some of you available. And anybody that could show up did. And it was almost always that original 5 or original 10. I mean, they were kind of the core group. Or, we had a couple that came in way later, maybe agent, 19 through 23. and they made themselves part of the core group. And so they were actually there and helping us decide on the culture. And so I guess it didn't really matter when someone came in, but yeah, we just did something casual, and I let the new person believe or feel like they're deciding if they liked the team was the only reason, because that was true. I wanted that to be true. I needed to know, do you feel like you fit here? Because that would tell me about their self-worth and self-image and all kinds of other things. And then I knew that the team was vetting them, and I knew that I was going to take the hard job. If I had to deliver the message to them that, hey, we met, we talked, at what I observed in the interaction, it's just not something that I want to move forward with. And they could be mad at me, and they could still have great working relationships on future transactions with the team, as they did from another brokerage or anything like that. And I didn't have to say the team decided against you. It was all me, and I just owned it. And I knew that I could carry that, and it didn't matter. I didn't mind being the bad guy, I guess. And I did it in a nice way.
Yeah. Great leadership. That's awesome. I love just that whole story there is really, really cool. Yeah. And super, going back to the simplicity, super simple makes it super effective. It's not complicated. So with the time we have remaining, you shut down that team, right? That business. Yeah. Why? Was something going so well? Why?
Yeah, it was going really well. And, the real estate market has gone up and down, and it had 2022, it was a little bit harder of a year, 2023, harder of a year, 24, 25, like they've all been a little funky and different. And that's okay. It made me go through an exercise with the team to go, okay, with our expenses, let's shrink some. And I had, the core group vote on, do we keep this? Do we reduce this? Do we have the agent pay for this themselves? What do we do? And we went through all of that. And as we got through it, it really started making me evaluate, what do I want and what do I want to run? And I knew that I wanted to be able to run businesses remote, and I wanted to. I only ever wanted to start something up that I believed I could run from any beach in the world, and that's, again, real simple, real clear state of mind. I only want to start something that I can run from a beach. I didn't see this as ever being able to progress to that. There was a maybe, but the risk was high, because that would require me to find somebody that the team wanted to follow and wanted to be part of as much as they did me. Mm-hmm. I could build in the systems for that want and yearn to be with each other. But I just didn't see my way through it. And here's something that ties back into my multi-level marketing days. When I jumped into a multi-level marketing business, I was 19 years old. I had no credit with banks. I had no cash as down payments or any fundable money toward any business. What I had was an abundance of time, because I was 19 years old. So that was the commodity that I could spend in great amounts to build and create a business. That's why that business at that time kind of made sense. Mm-hmm. Well, later in life, I had credit with banks, and I had the ability to put a down payment down on a flip property or a long-term rental, or I had money or leverage with real estate that I could put into buying cash flow producing businesses. Well, similarly, this business was one that I could probably have made it runnable from a beach someday, but not nearly as simply as some of the other businesses that I now had access to. And so I could do that uphill, push and climb, but I didn't have to anymore. And so I decided to let the whole team know that we were going to part ways. And I started talking to the brokerage on their behalf and helping negotiate better splits for them than they even had on our team. I offered a la carte opportunities and ways that they could keep their systems that I had built, and they could just hire kind of as a group and separately the people that I had already assembled and trained in the Philippines or locally on any of the non-license needing admin stuff, and then I just set up a little bit new of a design so I could step back and go, all right, I'm going to lean into some other ventures and other businesses that I do believe I can run more realistically and more effectively from a beach.
Interesting, man. Letting that go would be something that most people would have a really hard time with, right? And just making that decision of like, well, this has been extremely successful, and it's time just to let it go. And I guess the question I have is, what do you think? What character trait or skill or whatever that is? What is that allowed you to have that clarity and the confidence to be able to do that? Because even somebody who might be successful in a couple of different areas would struggle with that.
Yeah. I think something that I was either taught or I have in my nature. I can zoom way out, really big picture. I can come in super granular like a programmer too, but that zoom, that way far zoom out, I can keep track of what is my ultimate goal. What am I actually accomplishing here? What am I after? I will put the blinders on. I've told people for years now, I personally, I can't set goals because if I set a goal, I will achieve the goal. And I will destroy every other part of my life to achieve the goal.
Okay.
So I have to set trajectories. That's all I can allow myself to do. And I'll set a trajectory, which is no different than a goal, except it,
different word, bit of a different concept.
Lets me tweak my own personality. Yeah. And what it adds in and requires in a goal, and you're supposed to do this anyways, but I could never do it with a goal. With a trajectory, I knew I was on a path and in a direction for a period of time. And so then I had in my calendar 3 or 4 months from now, meeting with self to revisit trajectories. And I would have that meeting, and I gave myself permission because I ran down a blind path of multi-level marketing. And I was selling and I was talking to people and I was recruiting and I was doing the whole thing. And I ran that blindly for 8 years. And I learned a ton. And I got so much education and gratitude and growth up until about year 6. And the last 2 years, I kept running blind in a direction I shouldn't have. I was done with that business and I needed permission to myself to revisit my trajectory. And is this still the path I want to be on? Or do I want to change it for any reason I choose? Just to be conscious about it and do it intentionally rather than doing it blindly out of principle or ego. Or, here's one for the group. I don't think I've ever said this on a podcast before, but when I was 16, I bought a Jeep and, sold a car, bought a car, did whatever I had to buy this Jeep. And I drove this Jeep, CJ7 is what it was. And I put the license plate on it, never wrong, because my ego was so out of whack. And I meant it as a joke, kind of. It was really important.
Listen, if you put it on a license plate, it's probably true.
Right? I'm like, yeah, it's a good joke and all, but really, so what that was is it was an extreme fear of mine to be wrong, to be embarrassed, to be seen that way. And so for me to say, I'm going to do this, well, now my integrity's on the line, my ego's on the line. I could never fail a goal because now I was wrong. I chose wrong. There was a lot of wrong in there. And I didn't realize that is one of those illusions of control that I had. I thought I had control and that was safety. When I shattered and the stroke happened and all of that, I realized, I have influence. I can create ripples. I can create likelihoods and probabilities. I can create really vast likelihoods and probabilities, but I do not have control. Control is not safe. It is not the most opportunities. People do not give control people all of the great good opportunities.
Yeah.
And so that was all part of it. And as I got through some of those seasons and out of that, I started realizing how I could keep that big picture zoomed out. What am I actually trying to create in 15 years? What am I trying to create in 20 years, 10 years, 5, any of that? Well, is it to run this business and to have my name on the business? Is that what's important? How about 30 years from now? Is that what I want? And if I zoomed out far enough with a number of years, I'd go, oh no, I actually don't care if my name is a part of a real estate team within a brokerage. Okay. So if that's actually how I feel 30 years from now, when does that change? Is it 20 years from now? How about 10? How about today? And I just found, when does that change? Because if it obviously doesn't matter to me at age 30 or in 30 years from now, maybe it is today. maybe I actually don't care today, and I'm just running blind.
Yeah, good chance.
Yeah.
If it's that's right now would be the right time to do it, most likely, and make a decision. Yeah, and that decision, you could delay that for decades.
That's right.
And dig yourself into a hole, or however you want to look at that.
Yep.
But man, that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing all that. Really good stuff. Did you ever get pulled over in that Jeep?
Let's see. I think I got pulled over once when the speedometer didn't work. So, and I got a warning and I got a fix-it ticket and all that.
But did they make I would imagine the comments about the license plate, if I was a cop, I'd be looking for a good joke, good pun.
He did. He made a small comment. I remember where I was in Bellevue, Nebraska. I remember it. But I actually, what happened a lot is at traffic lights. I had no top, no doors, I was out there in the world, and I'd have people pull up next to me that were behind me just so they could laugh and love it and talk together about it, because they were like, you are some kind of special if you're going to put that on your car. So yeah, I got comments by the other drivers on the road for sure. And I kept them. Man. I kept them. I have them in a box in the garage. And in a memorabilia, and I hold them up next. So my sons and I, they're now 14 and 16. About 4 years ago, we remodeled and built a whole new Jeep, and used this Jeep as our model, and ground up and did whatever we needed to it to, keep it itself, but then but add to it, and new license plate. Now it says "Live More" on it, and I can hold the two up next to each other and be like, all right, it's a little bit different message these days.
Yeah, there's some growth there. Yeah.
Yeah,
man, that's good, Trevor. I love that. Great conversation. Really good stuff. Thank you for being on here today. I want to thank you just for showing up and being who you are. Really value it. This has been so good. Your website, trevorschade.com. That's SCHADE. Links in the bio. What do you want people to do when they go there?
Yeah. I work mostly now with organizations, teams that either need efficiencies brought in, the technology side and all of that, sure, the culture creation, even just a speaker to their companies to help people understand overcoming or getting unstuck. I mean, I really resonated with your podcast here and the message and what you're trying to share with people, because I think everybody's there. And so, yeah, if there's some kind of a business need that I can provide and help, that is my gift, my nature, my strengths. I see solutions to problems, be it technological, culture creation, or if somebody really wants to go wealth creation, primarily in real estate and then later into other businesses. I do that kind of consulting and public speaking and keynotes with many organizations.
Excellent. TrevorSchade.com. Check them out. And as always, as we wrap this thing up, listen, if you and I never talk again, anybody who watches or listens to this never hears from you ever again, what is a message that you would like to leave them with?
Yeah. I would say one of the key principles I was able to lean into and lean on since I was, 3 or 4 years old was act as if. And act as if, or act your way into a new way of thinking, or act your way into a new way of feeling. There was many sporting events or practices that I just didn't want to go to as I grew up. And if I just acted as if I wanted to go to them, I shook it off. I got upbeat, I got bouncy, and I went to the thing. And all of a sudden I was there in motion. And on the way home, I was always so glad I went. And it was so fun. And I don't think that's any different in someone's relationships. I don't think that's any different in someone's business. I don't think that's any different in someone's trajectories or goals. If you will just act as if you have that new next job, act as if you're excited about the relationship that you're in, act as if, I think that is really applicable in about every area of life. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to apply it.
Great advice. Act as if. And I just thought of my son. He's 11 and he complains about almost doing everything.
Yeah.
Anytime we go somewhere, and and I've been reminding him this since he was 5 years old. After the thing's over, he's like, Dad, that was actually like a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. I'm like, Yeah, remember the 400 times before this when you said the same thing? Yeah. Remember, just go start doing the thing. And then once you're in it, you're enjoying it. It's and then it's halfway done. Then it's finished. And then you actually had a great time. And it's just you have to act as if, because you got to remind yourself, hey man, you might not want to do it right now, but if you act as if when the thing is done and you have the accomplishment, you're going to feel great. You know that's coming, so go do it.
Yep.
Great advice.
I definitely agree. I mean, my kids are the same way. I'm the same way. I think we've all got that in our nature. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Another amazing true testimony, a breakthrough on the show today. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Movement.